G'day, James here from Espresso Resto, where restored is the new. You know how much we love magic here at Espresso Resto. I thought I'd use some magic to instantly upgrade a machine rather than go to the effort of all that toil in the workshop. So we'll try the magic again. Remember the magic spell, it's Arabica Robusta. Whoa, look at that. I turned an old Quaha Combi into a nice 2011 Lelit Combi. So pretty much looks like the same machine, just a few cosmetic things and one major thing. Cosmetic things, nicer drip tray possibly with circular holes rather than this sort of grid hole pattern. The stainless steel bean hopper cap, and there's a nice badge. But yeah, look, they've just removed some of the printed on labels, and instead they've got the steam instructions on the knob here rather than printed on the metal, and just a nice little decal here with just a few printed jobs here. But the big thing here is the steam tip. You've got a ball jointed steam tip with a single hole tip. So what I might do is show you how to upgrade your old IMAT Combi, Pavoni Neapolitan Combi, or your Nemox Napolitana or Nemox Del Opera, pretty much all the same thing. They've got an older sort of pannarello style one, either swivel or ball jointed on some of the later models, but still with the pannarello. This is a major upgrade. It's not very expensive and it's reasonably easy to do. So I'll go grab my tools and let's get on the job. So this was the Quaha Combi. So it's an older machine. Here we're just a swivel pannarello steam one. So what we're going to do is basically pull this apart and switch out that for a brand new ball joint steam one from Lelit. Got this one from Jet Black. So what I'll do now is I'll bring you over here and we'll zoom into a few things. So we're going to first take off the lid to the back of the water tank, and you lift out the water tank. And then first you've got to get the hoses out of the way. The clearance on this is not great, so you just got to give it a bit of a shove and pull it past the hoses. Some other water, that one. Take the lid off that because it tends to get in the way a bit. Then you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, and that's to take off a screw just behind the bean hopper. So whiz that out. Then there's another screw just over here. They're just the two screws, and that allows you to access the lift. And I do need to say that I didn't tell you, but I did unplug the whole machine well and truly, and I actually let it cool down a little bit before I started work, so I don't have to touch a hot boiler halfway into the job. So now you can actually lift off this whole top lid assembly. I'll lift that off. You just need to pull the little filter off the end of the hose, so that then the hoses can slide through that, and you can lift that out. Now you can see well inside the machine. So this is the inside of the combis. They're pretty much exactly the same. You've got the little brass boiler, the pump, the grinder that's sitting there, the switch gear. So what we're going to be doing now is basically lifting out the boiler to then be able to access the hole down here where the steam arm operates. So this hole here, we're going to need to make this hole a bit bigger because, as you can see, this is quite a bit wider here than the hole, and that'll be down and around about at the same height as the hole. So we're going to bore that out using a hole expanding drill. So we'll get to that in a bit. So step now is to remove the boiler. So what you want to do there, first you're going to remove the handle, and there's some screws underneath in here. That's an 8mm up in here, and that removes this whole collar. So we'll get on with doing that. Right, so to get up in access into these little nuts that are on the end of these bolts, they're quite tightly snugged inside this little casting. So let's get the drip tray out of the way to get a bit more clearance. You can use a tube spanner if it works. Some tube spanners fit in there nicely. A good shove up in there. And we'll see if we can undo it with the tube spanner. We've actually flipped it on its side, on its back here.
so that we can get in and see what we're trying to do a bit easier. So got that one off easy because that one has a bit more clearance, which is nice. So a little 8mm nut. So I have to confess, I did have to use my impact wrench on a couple of them. That was quite hard to get into, so I took the socket off and I actually used a hammer to tap the socket in so that I had good connection, and then I used the impact driver to wind them out, and that got them all off. So sometimes they can be a little bit tricky. So then you slip off the collar. Okay, then we'll put the right side of the machine again. And here, this is one thing you want to do. Always use a Sharpie pen to number your electrical connections on top of the boiler. So come up with a system how you're going to do it. Then what you want to do is make sure that you're take a photo of it. So let's say, for instance, I start over here as 1. Start 1, and I'm going to say 2, and then I'd go over to here and I'll say 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've cleared all of the electrical connectors off the elements and the thermostats. So this is the safety thermostat here with a little pop-up. So I think that's resettable if it overloads. Then we've got the solenoids down here. You have to label them and then pull them off to clear the wires all off this boiler arrangement. So we'll go ahead and do that. Disconnect the solenoid. Now we've got all the wires pretty much out of the way. I'm going to pull the steam knob off. So actually what we'll do is first we'll remove the water inflow from the pump into the boiler. So there's a little nut there, 12mm. Undo that. So we've got that off. You might need to give it a little bit of a tap to get this fitting to come out of the brass fitting over here off the end of the pressure line, because they can get a bit wedged in there. Just give it a tap, tap, tap with something. Then you want to undo the earth strap. There's a little earth strap at the bottom of the boiler. Right, so now what we're going to do is just going to remove this steam tap spindle here. So undo this nut at the end that holds it there. Pull that out of the way. It's got a little cutout in it, so you can remove it. See the cutout? So you can slide it off the shaft. And you just turn the shaft around and around, and it'll just keep winding until it comes out. That obviously that other nut would normally stop it from unwinding all the way so that you don't blast steam out. Then now we can just lift out the whole boiler assembly, and out comes the steam wand through the hole. I pulled the pannarello off and the little tab. So there you go, there's a whole boiler assembly. And now what we're going to do is basically switch out this here, and we're going to enlarge this hole here so that we can get our new steam wand down in there. So we've got the 15mm spanner here. Just undo that nut. Again, it's one of these ones that you can spin off and lift off the shaft. So that comes off. And this is just a little pivot arrangement. There'll be a little O-ring up in there. You can hook that out. Now steam tap here and hook that out. We don't need that anymore. It's irrelevant. And so what we're going to do now is spin on the new steam wand. So it was actually a 22, sorry. So I give it 22 and just give it a bit of a tweak like that. It's a tapered thread, I think, so that no need for any sort of Teflon or anything. We'll test that out later. So that's that. So now what we're going to do is, as you can see, where the hole was only designed for something quite small to come through, we've now got this protruding down past where it would need to go through the metal housing. So we're going to have to bore that hole out, this hole here. We're going to have to bore that out to be able to accommodate this wider nut. So come outside to do the hole cutting because it is quite noisy. So I've got the earmuffs on, got some safety glasses too, because a little piece of metal could flick off the drill. So I'm going to go, this is a 10 to 30mm step drill, and I'm going to take it out to about 28 or so. So it's going to take a bit of noise. I might actually pull this little light out of the way here Here we go. We're going to go straight in the middle. Back indoors now. So just plug this light back in and get that in there. And we can start putting all the wiring back and also the water line back onto the boiler. So screw it on that water line there. Give that with a 12mm, give that a little tweak. Make sure it's nipped up tight. Alright, that's good. And then there's the ground wire just below it. So we've got all the wires on. Solenoid it's got its discharge hose attached. What we need to do now is get the steam tap spindle back in. So just thread that in, get that lined all the way back. Alright, that goes all the way in to closed. Alright, and then this nut goes onto the spindle. And then you screw that back. But you have to allow for the fact that you want the steam tap to be able to open a little. So that's too tight because you want to be able to open the steam tap a bit. So you've got to adjust this to where you need it. That's probably about right. So we've got a bit of opening. I've actually got a new steam tap knob because the decal here on the front has rubbed off, and I'm going to clean that off. And then instead it's now printed on the actual knob, so you can clean the surface quite well. So you've got a flat section here to line up with the flat section, and press that on. Closed spindle, open, that's good. There we go. Right, so we've got machine laid on its back so we can easily put the collar back on. This here. One thing to mention is you want to make sure you've aligned the collar correctly so that when you put the handle in, you're going to get the handle to come in and then locate correctly. Because you can actually have it out 90 degrees and you go to put the handle in and it's not the right spot. So be very mindful of that when you are locating your collar, that it's going to be in the right spot. The little brass washers actually are underneath the machine and the collar. So I'll just put them on. I forgot to put them on. Right. So there we go. Collar on. Now get our 8mm nuts, and you want to just do them up with your 8mm. And to tighten them, we might need to do that in 2 steps. So we'll first just get them on and located. Right. So I've got the collar in. Now it is a bit fiddly with getting those little 8mm nuts on and located, but once you get them on, make sure you give them a good nip. And because what you want to avoid is if you're doing up your handle and you find that the boiler and group is moving inside the casing, and then you'll need to make sure you tighten them up a bit more. So get them nice and tight, that's good. We're pretty much almost done there, so time to pretty much just give the machine a bit of a clean up, put everything back in, drip trays, etc. So we've got a nice new steam wand, steam knob. So look at that. So I just used a magnet just down the back of the machine where some of the filings and cutout had gone. So just get a magnet or something, or make sure you really clean out the bottom tray because it's fallen down in there, and that's not necessarily going to be great to be lying around inside your machine. All right. So last step pretty much is to rethread these water cables and the overflow or the overpressure back through the lid housing. Just wiggle that down. So I got that back in, and now you've just got to do up the 2 screws. You got the one screw behind, the longer screw behind the back of the bean hopper. Yeah. Now get in here with this screw. That's that. Now get the filter back on the longer of the 2 hoses. the intake hose. And this is the overpressure release back in there. Then we'll get the tank. In this instance, this one has the hole closer to the back. Give it a good shove past the two hoses, and then just put the hoses back in. Bean hopper lid on, and water tank cover. So now, if you come back and have a look, we have a Quaha Combi with a Lelit steam wand. So it's pretty much in functionality as good as that other brand name Lelit. So there you go. That is an upgraded Quaha Combi. So now you see they are exactly the same machines. You've got the same boiler inside, a couple of different fittings, like small cosmetic things, but generally now you've got the same wand on this old Quaha. It's going to bang out the same cup of coffee that this one can, and you can probably pick one of these up for a damn sight cheaper. So, hope you found the video interesting, and until next time, keep caffeinated.